It rattled South Central while most were asleep.
That was the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life.
A magnitude 7.1 earthquake felt from Anchorage to the valley to the Kenai Peninsula.
It was close to what I felt back in 1964 when we had the big earthquake.
A major threat that can strike at any moment. In Kenai, the quake triggered gas leaks and fires, destroying 4 homes.
It's very, very hard to look at. That's 6.5 years of mine and my children's lives.
But thankfully, no lives were lost. And across the region, only minimal structural damage.
Giant crack in the road, humongous earthquake.
We were lucky this time, but Alaska is earthquake country.
I'm shocked that we don't have, way more damage than we did.
Tonight, Channel 2 News presents Earthquake Drill 7.1. Are we prepared for the next big one?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Channel 2 News Hour. After last Sunday's magnitude 7.1 earthquake, many Alaskans realize they are not as prepared for a big one as they might have thought.
Now, tonight, we'll go over several areas of preparedness to make sure you know what to do when the next one hits. And we all know it's not a matter of when, but if.
You'll learn the proper methods to protect yourself as the earthquake is happening, and state disaster preparedness experts will debunk some of the myths you may have recently heard about.
You'll also learn what needs to go into your emergency kit, from how much food and water you need to have on hand and why Alaska is different than the rest of the country.
Plus, you'll see some of the best pictures and video from our viewers in the moments right after the quake.
We're also up in Fairbanks tonight with a state seismologist who will explain what they've learned from last Sunday's earthquake. And we'll also show you the Red Cross Supply Lifeline here in the city. And you'll hear from the chief operating officer from the Anchorage School District about how they checked for damage in more than 100 city schools.
So the fact that we had an earthquake was no surprise, but the power it packed certainly was. The section of Cook Inlet where Sunday's big shaker was centered is in an area well known for producing earthquakes.
However, that quake did contain another surprise for geologists. Channel 2's Steve McDonald tells us about it.
This shows these aftershocks.
The section of Cook Inlet that produced Sunday's earthquake is no stranger to geologist Peter Heusler. Each year, thousands of earthquakes are sent rumbling from this spot.
These magnitude 3s, 4s, 5s, they're all...
The big differences between Sunday's earthquake and the 64 earthquake that caused so much damage is depth.
Now, the Sunday quake was around 80 miles down. The 1964 earthquake was just 12 miles below the surface. Joining us now to discuss the science behind the earthquake is state seismologist Dr. Michael West with the Alaska Earthquake Center up in Fairbanks. And Dr. West, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, Doctor, first of all, explain why the depth matters so much when it comes to earthquakes here in Alaska.
Well, the location of this earthquake was not a surprise. It's a common location, a common depth to have them, but the impacts on people are far different when the earthquake is at depth. Think about it this way. Nobody was at the scene of this earthquake. At bare minimum, you had to be at least 80 miles away on the surface of the earth. So that means that none of us actually felt the full brunt of this earthquake. We felt sort of the distant rumblings, even though they were strong, even though it seemed really powerful. These were just the distant rumblings from the source itself.
With experts about some of the myths and explains what you should do when the ground starts to shake.
Right now we're joined by Dan Belanger, the Earthquake and Tsunami Program Manager. Dan, this is likely where you're going to be, in an office, at home, if that earthquake hits during the day. What should you do when it strikes?
Well, one of the things we recommend people do is, first of all, when an earthquake happens, everybody kind of freaks out a little bit for a few seconds, and then you decide whether you need to take action or not. So what we recommend and what's been promoted is that you get down, drop cover, and hold. So you want to get down underneath, like in an office setting, or underneath a table or a desk or something like this, And you want to, if you can find something to hold on to so the desk and stuff doesn't move away from you, or if nothing else, you need to at least cover your head and neck and protect it. So items that, well, if they do fall, that will at least you'll be protected and covered.
And you are more likely to get hurt by something like a shell or a glass bottle or anything that's kind of just sitting up here.
Right, yeah. And if you looked at, like if you saw any of the videos or the pictures from the last earthquake, a lot of the items that people had were things in medicine cabinets, curio cabinets, little shadow figures and stuff like this that came off, books, mirrors that were on the walls, even pictures and stuff like that.
The average homeowner.
Channel 2's Dan Carpenter joins us now with what to know if you're considering insurance after this big earthquake. Dan?
Well, Mike, Maria, that kind of coverage is relative to the value of your home and can come at a high price. Also, there are a few restrictions. The Alaska Division of Insurance cautions people to take time to work with a broker to understand what's covered and what isn't. We spoke with the State Farm company here in Anchorage, which offers a 15 to 20% deductible on the value of a home. So if your home is worth $300,000, the deductible would be $60,000. State Farm says a separate policy would be needed to cover the contents of your home.
Governor Walker, thanks so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
So first of all, did you feel the earthquake when it happened?
I did not. I was in Juneau, and I did not. I'm very sensitive to earthquakes, having been through the 64, but I did not feel it in Juneau, but I heard about it.
So what's the process when a big earthquake like that happens? Do people come and wake you up? What happens?
Well, they will now. They didn't then, and I've changed that. I want to be woken up on those kinds of things. So, but they gave me notification by emails and stuff that started at about 2:30 in the morning, and so then I was on the phone after I saw the emails and after that. But it's a rather immediate notification.
How prepared do you think our state is for a major earthquake?
Well, I mean, we had a few years ago a major earthquake drill in Alaska, and I think that was helpful. That was good that we do that. So, because we do have a number of earthquakes. So, but normally they say you should have 3 days of rations. In Alaska, we say it should be 7 days of rations available.
Power outages affected thousands of people from Homer to Talkeetna. It's a scary reminder of how a natural disaster could leave us in the dark and in the cold.
Channel 2's Travis Kachaturian joins us now in Fairbanks with details on how Alaska's power grid handled Sunday's shaker. And what is our breaking point? Travis, what can you tell us?
Mike, Maria, Alaska's power grid, although sturdy, is by no means robust. Now, speaking with officials across the state, they break down our electrical needs into 3 different spheres: the Kenai Peninsula, the Anchorage-Matsu area, and right here in Fairbanks, all 3 of which require connectivity as a backup plan in case an emergency hits. A dark night, suddenly darker. Awoken by Sunday's powerful earthquake, more than 15,000 Alaskans were suddenly left without power. Dozens of utility crews, many who had the day off, were called to the streets, hoping the electrical grid survived without major damage.
So how can you prepare for something you can't even predict?
Channel 2's Beth Verge spoke with the Division of Homeland Security about how you can give your family the best chance at making it through the unthinkable.
Your Go Kit will have things like important papers in it, food, water, clothing, different items, and everybody's Go Kit's going to be a little bit different.
Your Go Kit is going to include what? We have one right here.
Most of the stuff came from what I had at home already. In here I have socks. How many of you guys have had socks that the washer eats one? Okay, so why throw them away? Okay, these are good socks. They're going in my go bag, okay?
City loss, power loss, and for when it comes down to emergency communications, we need to get our messaging out there, and so we have those vehicles in place so that we can make sure that we're getting our messages out there, making sure people know that we are where we are, our shelters are set up and ready to go, and then also giving messages on how to find us and what they need to move forward.
All right, thanks so much for joining us and sharing so many important tips. That's Beth Bennett, Regional Communications Officer for the Red Cross of Alaska.
But plans are one thing and actually doing it's another. So when you get these opportunities, there's going to be an extensive kind of evaluation of how we performed with this.
Now, ASD crews met at a makeshift command center at the district maintenance headquarters, where they were split into 12 groups of 2 to 3 people. Overall damage at schools was minimal. The day after the quake, classes went on as scheduled while crews made small repairs. Tom D'Antona was on the 9th floor of the McKinley Tower in downtown and captured this video. D'Antona says the sounds you were hearing in the video, well, that's actually the building shaking. He says it happened for about 2 minutes as the building settled and then stopped swaying. And while buildings in Anchorage shook and some shook hard, none came crashing down. Building codes that apply to everything from homes to high-rises are currently under review here in the city. Channel 2's Mallory Peebles looks at what structures are built to withstand. Mallory?
Mike, most of us use the magnitude scale when talking about earthquakes, but engineers I spoke to say that the 1964 earthquake hit Anchorage